Hi everyone, good afternoon. I'm Jake Mackay, I'm the CFO and U.S. GM of Pollen Projects. And Pollen Projects is the next business from Ben Branson. You may know Ben. Ben was the founder of Seedlip, which was one of the first, if not the first, global brand in this category. And we have two businesses, two brands. One is Season, which is an NA bitters, and one which is Silver, which is an NA dark spirit, which we'll be making here in the US up in the Hudson Valley. So the focus of this session, as you know, is on compliance. My background is in general management and finance as well, and in brand building. So I'll kind of touch a little bit beyond just compliance as well, because these things are all so entwined. So what I'm going to focus on and talk about here is give you, if you like, a checklist or an overview of how to bring a brand successfully into the US from a different jurisdiction. My background has been from the UK, so I've done this 3 times now, twice in the drinks industry and once in the ad tech world. But this could really apply to anyone coming from outside of the US. And this may be obvious to most of the people in this room if you are US based, but most of us in Europe, certainly in the UK, think of the US as one place, not as a collection of different states and different jurisdictions. So understanding the quirks, if you like, between each state, the compliance, the tax, distribution, etc., is really important. That may be second nature to anyone from this market, but I can tell you from experience, anyone in Europe, it really isn't. Common language is another thing, and we see this not just in compliance or in finance, but in brand building especially as well. A lot of UK brands will come to America and talk in the same language they use that's been very successful in the US, in the UK rather, or in Europe, but it doesn't hit home here. And the same, it's really important to consider that from a compliance perspective as well as a brand building perspective. The US is expensive, and it's getting more expensive relatively. There are, and there was in the previous session, multiple layers of cost. For example, California. So NA is a big focus for us and for California, but in terms of the cost of being there, it's significantly more so than if we were to look at somewhere, say, the Pacific Northwest. So really understanding that and doing your homework on that is vital. And then all of your partners, who you're going to work with from an import perspective, from a tools and software perspective, your advisors. A lot of people will come to you and offer a lot of free advice. It isn't free, and you're going to get a lot of it. And very quickly, your supply chain will break, or your models don't add up. So really important to do your homework on all of this. So in terms of a step-by-step guide, whether you're importing or producing, that's quite a big point here. We, for the first time, we're actually going to start making our product from the outset in the US. Quite often we'll find that the businesses from the UK in particular will send forward a batch production, that's production from the UK into the US, and then establish the supply chain that way, and then look for somewhere to co-pack in the US. We've actually decided to start from the outset producing in the US. There may be very good reason why you have to import. Scotch whisky is a great example, or a product that's made somewhere within the EU. But one of the things that you have to do from the outset, which is really important, is setting up the business. So setting up a US entity, whether you're going to import it or produce it here, is highly advisable. Many retailers will only engage with a US business. In the past, I've tried to engage with US retailers or UK businesses. A lot of them won't do it. And then your business structure. This is a really important point. It's both a legal and a financial point. I won't dwell on the legal side because that's very much Ryan's area of expertise. It's not mine. But LLC or corporations, from a US perspective, you'll probably, and to be clear, this is not tax advice. I'm not a tax advisor, but you'll probably be told by a tax advisor that it doesn't really matter. From a UK perspective, it does. There are some potential tax issues down the line if you are an LLC, not a corporation. So just bearing in mind those kind of quirks and nuances, they are liable to change. They will change from wherever your home country or jurisdiction is. So make sure you are aware of that and get advice from both jurisdictions, both the US and your home. And then, of course, obtaining your EIN from the IRS is crucial. So if you are going to create your own facility, this step is important. If you're not, you can skip this. But all of this is really important for you to consider if you are going to set up a facility. So local, state, and state licensing, checking zoning laws, whether you can actually operate the facility in a certain area. So where we're looking up at the moment outside of Hudson, we've been having to check whether the actual location is zoned correctly for what we're trying to do, and then applying for all the correct business permits and licenses. So if you are constructing a place or you're adapting a place that already exists, ensuring that all of this adheres to the FDA good manufacturing practices, including everything with regards to sanitation, clean water supply, drainage, etc. This might sound obvious, but again, these are sorts of things that I've seen that haven't happened in the past. And then all of the correct environmental regulations before you can finally register your facility with the FDA, which is a sort of vital part. The next step in this then is actually that FDA compliance piece. So we've touched on FDA already generally, but I know Ryan's talked about it. But compliant with FDA, or TTB, and making sure that you're aware whether it's one or the other, and then the allergen labeling, the manufacturing practices, and then the HACCP. So HACCP is an FDA-specific, very much like a HACCP, which is more general, but it's specific to the FDA. So then operations and quality control. If you're outsourcing your production, you can skip this step, but it's important to know that your production partner is adhering to this. This is pretty standard stuff globally, but again, it's very, very important to consider specifically for the US market. So training employees, ensuring that all of that is done correctly, all of your standing operation procedures are in place, and correct product testing, and then record keeping. Record keeping is a vital, vital part of this. So be prepared for an FDA inspection. That could happen at any point, unannounced. And so making sure you comply with everything that the FDA set out ahead of this is vital. When it comes to marketing and claims, avoiding unsubstantiated health claims might seem obvious, but there's a nuance to this as well. So coming from the UK, with adaptogens and with any kind of health claims, we can't, in the UK, make any claims whatsoever, not even tangential claims. It's actually the much stricter environment. So in this case, if you're coming from the UK, you may have an opportunity to talk a little bit more positively about a potential claim that you could make with your product. But again, this is a crucial thing you talk to from a legal advice perspective. But do consider that, again, that the nuances exist, and there might be an opportunity for you. Understanding the local taxes and regulations. Again, this comes back to the point about the US state system versus federal within the UK, within the US. It's just not something you'd be thinking about. And then your ingredient sourcing. So, where is this coming from? Is it from within the US, or are you importing some ingredients from outside the US as well? So just quickly to recap on this then. So if we have 5 steps, you're going to be importing or producing here. Either way, I strongly recommend setting up a US business. And then facility setup and registration, if you're going to build your own site or if you're adapting an existing site. Ensuring FDA compliance is a crucial element to this. I know other UK businesses in this space, I won't name them, of course, but have done this without FDA compliance initially, and it does cause an awful lot of problems for you down the track. Operations and quality control are obviously a vital part of this as well. So if I could give you one piece of advice, having done this many times, is consider each state separately as its own nation. This is a wonderful country, but it is one country. It's not. It's a collection of multiple, if you like, from a European perspective, many countries within that. Talk about common language, and consider your costs and your margins. A model that works in the UK or in Europe As soon as you start adding layers of costs in, getting it to the US or additional distribution or layers of distribution costs can really start to eat into your margins and eat ultimately into your profitability. And the other thing that we talked about, and Ryan touched on this with the distribution contracts and understanding your payment terms, and this is part of this as well, is your payment terms might be 30 days, but if you're sending product from France, for example, it's on the water for a long time, it's been a while since you've made it, it's probably been a while since you paid for it, and on top of that, it's going to be another however many days before your distributor pays you in the US. So all of that additional lead time in terms of cash and working capital management it might sound obvious, but again, the sort of things that businesses do forget to do or do forget to look at in detail. And yeah, build your partnership and sweat your network. There's so many people out there that can help you. Find out what the key things the key things that you don't know, and work with your network to seek the right advice. And again, really just do your homework. Thank you very much.